A very good evening. It's Wednesday evening and welcome to the State of Scottish Football. It's Wednesday. What a lineup we've got this evening. To my right, to my right is Regan Stevenson and to the bottom is Ger Thompson. Regan, how are we first and foremost this evening?
Dave, I'm doing well, thank you. It's good to be back on again.
Lovely. Jenna, how are we?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Fantastic. So, first and foremost, let's go to Tayside. Dundee United were ravaged today by the news that they had a positive COVID test. Before I start here, Regan, what Dundee United do, just to give everybody a clarification of the process that Dundee United Football Club implement, is whenever there's one positive test, the whole thing shuts down. And that's exactly what they've done, Regan.
Yeah, Dave, they've done that, and I did see that there's a bit of doubt between the Rangers game on Saturday as well, so I think we just need to wait and see on that one. But yeah, do we actually know who the player is, no?
It's not been disclosed yet, no.
Oh, okay. But no, I'm just hoping that you can find out some more information tomorrow when you do the press conference, hopefully.
But then I don't think United are saying anything at this precise moment in time because a lot of the players are getting PCR tests in the moment, so there'll be a lot of self-isolation until we find out the full extent. So it'll probably be tomorrow evening, Friday morning that we get a full terminology of what's going to be happening with Saturday. But Jenna, it's hugely worrying news for Tam Court's side because United only have 1 win in 9 at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if the results weren't worrying enough, having the anxiety involving COVID on your shoulders as well, it can't be nice. I hope whoever's infected ends up not becoming too seriously ill, and that hopefully it's just to get kind of mild symptoms or even better, no symptoms at all. But yeah, I mean, you can only really wish the player in question and the rest of the players as consequence all the better health.
Absolutely. Now, Regan, just to clarify to the viewers, the United players were out in Newcastle at the weekend, but this has nothing to do with that event in Newcastle at the weekend. But it shows what a few beers can do to first and foremost try and rejuvenate the group, but then it means you're going back online again.
Oh no, Dave, I would say Newcastle's a great place to go for a night out.
Oh, it's a lovely place, Regan.
But no, it's sad that he's caught it, but no, Newcastle is a great place to go.
Yeah, absolutely. What repercussions do you think is in place for United moving forward, Jenna, if this game against Rangers is called off at the weekend? Could we see a potential Hibs scenario here?
I mean, I think it'll either be another Hibs scenario or they'll take the approach that they did with Ross County at the start of the season, where the points will be awarded automatically to the opposing team. Now, I think they should probably reschedule it if necessary, of course, but it's finding the appropriate time to actually play the game, because if Rangers continue to do well in Europe, then they're going to have a lot of midweek games because of that. And then Dundee United as well, they won't want to add in extra games that they don't have to add in during already hectic schedules around training and playing. So I can see them maybe going down the 3 points route, but I think they will be pushing to get the games replayed first.
Absolutely. Regan, on you go.
The only point I would say to counter that, Dave, is that Celtic had 1 positive case last year and they still had to play 2 games. So,
yeah, well, I mean, if there is a 3 points to opponents scenario here, I could see United going all the way to the SFA and going, what's going on here, Regan?
Yeah, no, I think they will, because they'll be saying that it's a bit of maybe one rule for them and one rule for us, because if you look at when Jack Ross was in charge, they missed a few games and they caught up last night, as we'll speak about later in the show. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what the SFA do, because if you look at it, I think the bigger clubs will be wondering, because the big clubs like to make statements, and I think this is one thing that they will touch on, because they don't want to see one club getting favour treatment over another one, Dave.
Absolutely. Now, Jenna, it's important to remember that this particular situation happened last year at Dundee United in November last year, where Mickey Mellon and a lot of players had to self-isolate and they had to go and rely on the youth players just to go through games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling to even think of a single team in the top flight that hasn't been touched by COVID in some aspect, either being from players who've been out on international duty, came back and have had to isolate, our first team players and staff catching this awful virus itself. If they can play the youth team, it's a great opportunity for youth players, definitely, but you could maybe question if that's quite unfair. Putting young players out against like of Rangers and stuff, you could argue that's not entirely fair. But if they do the 3-point situation, as Regan was saying, I do see Dundee United going to SFA, kicking up, and rightly so, let's be honest. You can argue it all day long if it's morally correct or not in these situations. It's not Dundee United's fault. If the game does get called off, no one deliberately goes out their way to catch COVID. But this whole thing, I think it's too hard to predict because every situation seems to have different responses from the governing bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. Now Regan, when we look at this, if you're Dundee United Football Club, the priority and the safety is paramount towards the players that are affected. And there was a situation a few weeks back where 2 members of the coaching staff also tested positive for the virus, which does show that United are pretty proactive.
It's like I said to you earlier, Dave, they've shut the whole training ground because you said that's their protocol. So, like you said, they're trying to minimise what they're doing. So, I think what they're doing is trying to try and get less people as possible infected.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of clamour, a lot of debate about this, not in the comment section, but throughout the whole Scottish football public, because there's a lot of uncertainty, even though Jason Leach and all that kind of guys are saying various things. Now, thought you only had to pass a test if you've been in contact with the affected player. Yes, but there's a lot of permutations to this. Vaccinations, unvaccinated. There's obviously this new thing with the Omicron variant. So there's a whole can of worms with this. And it only adds to this to the frustration, not just for Dundee United in general, but for every Scottish club.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we can't rule out this new threat this variant poses. We've seen it obviously outside football, the new restrictions that have came in place for your common day person involved in the virus and what you have to do now if you come in contact with someone, regardless if you're vaccinated or not. I mean, I'm pretty sure that it's now changed to that you have to isolate for 10 days, regardless if you're vaccinated or not, if anyone in your house tests positive, which I think should have been how it was. And I think Dundee United are kind of doing the football equivalent of that, of shutting the full thing down till we know for a fact who's infected, who's not, how severe they are, and how they can get treated as quickly as possible.
Now, Regan, I think Jenna's just made a very good point there. If the game against Rangers just go ahead on Saturday and Dundee United have missed out on one vital training session, and when I say vital, I mean vital in terms of getting the preparations in place, set pieces in place, everything that's equivalent with the preparation behind the football match. If Dundee United miss out on one training session, it could have repercussions on the park on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because you know what football's like. If you're playing players that have not played in maybe 6 weeks or 7 weeks, and also playing the Champions Rangers as well, it's going to be a very difficult task. Made even harder because if you look at it, no disrespect to Dundee United's academy or young team, I don't think they would be a match for Rangers. And I think the score could be a cricket score if you're talking, because I think if you look at Rangers at Ibrox, they look as if they've made a fortress now under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, and that'll be the last thing on Tamco's mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's a comment coming in here by Tom Messi saying football will be behind closed doors again soon. Now, it's an article that just came out, so you might have not seen it, but did you know it's an article by Davy Martindale today in Football Scotland?
I haven't seen it, but I would be surprised if it happened.
Right, he has went and says, Davy Martindale admits COVID fears as long as the boss are concerned Omicron variant could end season. Now, if it does end the season, what do you think is going to happen, Regan? I'm trying to scare everybody here.
I'm not too sure because of obviously we done it points per game, but that was after 31 games of the season. We only had 7 games left, so I don't know if they can really award titles to Rangers this early on, because it's only played, what is it, Dave, 12 games maybe, something like that.
Yeah, Martin. I'll mention what you said here. Martindale is worried the current campaign could go all the way of the 2019-20 term, which saw Hearts, Partick Thistle, and Stranraer demoted. Although his side sit comfortably in the Premiership safe zone, obviously the boss Stephen Martindale is worried the Omicron variant could see early relegation across the SPFL. The Olivia Gaffer is concerned the spread of the new COVID variant could mean repercussions in Jenna. As much as we don't want to see that, if it is that, it's going to be the whole can of worms again.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember when the season got shut down the first time really well. I mean, I was still in high school at the time, so it just goes to show how long ago it was now. And remember, Dad texted me saying, "Bought tickets for the Motherwell game tonight. Let's go out. We'll have a great night." Not even half an hour later, he hadn't fully even left the stadium, and that was the league called off.
Yeah.
Like, if that was to happen again, I think a lot of people would lose their support network, not in the sense of actually speaking to people, but the mental health would take a dive if games go behind closed doors again as well. A big thing for a lot of football fans, as we'll all know, is that Saturday match day. The buzz you have that day is indescribable to those that might not have experienced it before. And they'll play in the players' minds as well. I mean, any player that's ever spoke about playing during COVID and whatnot have all said playing without the fans was nothing. It was not a proper game of football.
Absolutely. Right, it's Christmas. Let's get all the negativity out of the way. We've got all the negativity out of the way here. Right, Easter Road, Hibernian, David Gray. Right, he's taking the team for the cup final, Regan. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking it's the same scenario that me and you spoke about last week, Dave, about Jermaine Defoe and David McCallum taking Rangers for the cup final. I just think it's a wrong decision because I'm speaking from experience of talking to professional football players, and they've told me that they always like to see a manager on the side of the park. And for David Gray, and I think it's the other guy's called Gray as well, isn't he? David Gray and somebody else Gray.
There's Craig Sampson, there's another guy.
Yeah, but he's called Gray as well. Eddie Gray, that's what it is.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't think it's a good thing for the players, obviously, because you would like to have a figure on the park. But I think the players are professional enough. One thing I did notice watching the game last night was that the only real threat for Hibs was Boyle again. And I see that Nisbet and Chris Cadden went down injured as well. And the only positive for Hibs is they walked off the pitch, so they could be fit for Sunday. But I think it's going to be interesting because obviously, I think, to be honest, Dave, I think the players are still a little bit shocked about the departure of Jack Ross, because I thought even though he done really bad in the league, I said this start last week, but he only got 4 points from a possible 27, so that wasn't good. But I thought, as I said to you last week, I thought he would still get the final against Celtic.
Well, I'll go back and I'll give Jenna 2 questions in a minute, but I'll stick with yourself here because you've brought me on perfectly. I think Jack Ross had a great report with his players, and you're right. And I think John Hughes mentioned it in the radio as well. The way that this was handled was a little bit poor from Hibs, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, John Hughes was saying last night, I listened to the same commentary you're talking about, Dave, and he said that the players will be going out there to do it for Jack Ross on Sunday as well, because he helped them get there as well. I just find it strange for the timing, because we spoke about last week as well. Well, they must have someone to bring in, but it doesn't look like that way. They're speaking about Sean Maloney and Gary Caldwell to come in. Now, I do like that appointment, but I think if they were going to bring it in, they should have brought him in before the cup final. Just so, not that I'm saying that his training methods would help, but just for a different voice and maybe trying to help them into this cup final, because it's going to be difficult for David Gray. But the maybe positive thing for Hibs fans is that David Gray could be a man that would be even more loved to be a man that's scored the winner in a Scottish Cup final and then to manage them in a League Cup final and beat Celtic as well. That would be some feat for the Edinburgh side. So he'll be hanging on that he can help them win a cup. because if he can do that as a player and a manager, then it would be incredible for him.
Jenna, do you think Sean Maloney has if he gets the job of this, of course, we'll get back up to David Gray in a minute. Sean Maloney, do you think he's the personality to be a manager at the calibre of Hibernian Football Club?
I mean, Hibs are a massive side, so I think they need to have a manager in that backroom staff that appreciates the size of the club, can bring that club even further and continue to expand them. Hibs been in the final, that is huge for the club. I'm pretty sure they were in the final last year for the League Cup as well, were they not? Or was it the Scottish Cup?
It was Hearts, was it not?
Yeah, it was the Scottish Cup, because the final
Hearts.
The final last year was St Johnstone against David Martindale's Livingston. So.
Sorry. I'm thinking the season before. Sorry, Jen.
No, it's all good. But yeah, I mean, Hibs are a really talented side, and he's been successful before, so I don't see why he couldn't be a really good manager for them. But I mean, the proof is in the pudding, so we just need to see if he gets a job and what kind of results he's able to bring out.
Absolutely. Comment coming in here, a very valid point. I've just talked about the personality here, but Maloney has been under Martinez now for a few years. He's ready, and I do agree with you, Brown Warrior. This is now the time for Maloney, as far as I'm concerned.
It definitely is, Dave. Because
if he wants to take it, crack on.
Dave, because I was one of the ones last year that was saying Sean Maloney for Celtic job. So I'm actually really impressed by the invention of the Hibs chief executive, because I think it's a very shrewd move. Obviously, every time I've seen him on Sky Sports as well, he's probably the only pundit on Sky that talks sense. So, because Chris Boyd and the other ones just don't seem to be balanced on it. But no, I'm really looking forward to it, because obviously he's been under Roberto Martinez, but also what people forget as well is he's also been under Martin O'Neill at Celtic. So he's got some real good experience, and he's also, when he was down south, he played in Europe with Aston Villa. He also won the FA Cup under Roberto Martinez when they beat Roberto Mancini's Man City. So I think he's got everything there. And one of the things I did see last week was an article by Kevin De Bruyne saying that Sean Maloney was a very good coach. So the thing for me is if players like Kevin De Bruyne can appreciate what Sean Maloney's doing, then you have to say that it's a very good appointment.
Right, back on to David Gray before the Hibs fans start anointing me with disrespect towards a manager that's not even in the door yet. So on to David Gray, Jen, and if he wins on Sunday, he's a legend at the Hibernian Football Club as it is. But God, it'll be sky high if he wins on Sunday.
Definitely. I mean, it's been a couple of years since Hibs have brought silverware back to Easter Road, so they'll be really going out there trying to get that win. I mean, you could argue it's not ideal. He's technically still interim now, but if he's able to get that win for Hibs, I think it could also maybe push him further for the managerial position. It could. You never know. It depends how the chief execs up at Easter Road are feeling, but I say good luck to Hibs. They'll need a really strong leader in that dugout, regardless of who it is now, especially with this final coming up.
I'll stick with yourself, Jenna. David Gray, Hibernian or other clubs, I think he's ready for it to be a number one.
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree fully. He's kind of tried and tested. They know what they're getting with him. He's proved himself over the years, so I say let him have this chance.
Absolutely. Regan, I think you're right when you say the schoolboy mentality or the schoolboy terminology around this. But because, I mean, since Gray's took over, he's had a lot of plaudits for the way he's managed the media, managed the players, especially because the players had such a good report with Jack Ross. But also the other side to this, at least what Gray has done, he's managed to carry a bit of stability to this Hibs side compared to maybe what McCallum Defoe did.
Definitely, Dave. But an interesting thing I just watched before the show started was David Gray's press conference for the League Cup final, and he basically said again about Jack Ross, and that to me just states how everybody at that club wanted Jack Ross to succeed. But in terms of David Gray on Sunday, like you said, if he wins that on Sunday, I think there'll be a statue outside Easter Road on Sunday night.
Well, I mean, when you look at it, Regan, right? Won the Scottish Cup 2016, that goal, right? The obviously if he wins on Sunday, right? Let's go. Let's fast forward 50 years, just for a minute here. Who in the next 50 years would either win Hibs the League or Hibs the Cup through one person doing spectacular things for that club? It would be hard to think of anybody that's going to do any better.
I'm just not looking forward to for 50 years time, Dave, because I'll be 76, so I'm not looking forward to. I'm just like, what is going on here? But yeah, I think I'll look back when I'm at 76 and go, yeah, I think David Gray's done well. But I think in terms of David Gray, I listened to him last night and I thought he sounds like he could be a very good manager, not just for his team on Sunday, but I think for the future he could be a really good manager as well.
Absolutely. Right, on to the park. 1-0 Hibs last night. Paul McMillan with a Robin Van Persie diving header. What did you think of the game, Jenna?
I didn't catch the game last night, so I've only seen the highlights from it. But from what I've seen from that header, that might be header of the season. And I don't think Dundee might be as proud of that as they probably should when you hear it at a surface level. I mean, to score an OG that beautifully, that must have very much stung him last night.
Yeah. Regan, Robin Van Persie, Netherlands against, if I'm not mistaken, Spain. That was a good header. Paul McMillan, just as classy.
Yeah, I was watching it and I put in the group chat, yeah, outstanding header. I just thought he done really well. But like I said to you just before we come on, I thought that Dundee were very disappointing. I don't think the Edinburgh side done too well either, but I think it just shows that the state that those two teams are in. And like I said, hopefully James McPake can put them back up because David, it was only a few weeks ago you predicted them to go to Ibrox and win 2-1.
Aye, correct. On the goal, as much as McMullen has headed it into his own net, I must say a lot of the credit here needs to go to Martin Boyle, Jenna. A lot of venom and a lot of pace in the cross. I thought it was an expertly executed cross.
Yeah,
perfectly executed. Perfectly executed.
Yeah, I mean, Martin Boyle is a really good player. I mean, I've seen some of his goals firsthand and the devastation that causes for other teams. And yeah, I mean, there has been rumours he could be leaving potentially at the end of the season. Hibs will be obviously doing everything in the power that they can to keep him stay. I'm pretty sure he signed a new deal at the start of the season, did he not? So if he does go, it will bring Hibs a lot of money. But if he's continuing to create efforts like that, as well as the extremely amazing goals that he usually does score, he is going to become a Hibs legend, I believe.
Regan, I think it's a sign of where Hibs are at just now, but also where Dundee are at just now. Where Hibs aren't playing well, but winning 1-0. Regan?
Yeah, Dave, I mean, I think it's the biggest shock that I heard last week was James McPake has been touted for the Hibs job because I don't think Dundee have been pulling up any trees. And same with Hibs, I think their only good performance was that performance at Hampden. And I don't think they played too well either. I just thought Rangers had a bad day as well. So I think it's really interesting because if you look at Sean Maloney, even though we'll say he's not got much experience, I think he needs to make a good impression in his first couple of weeks because you know what football's like, Dave. Football fans can be very fickle. I mean, I remember watching English football and people were saying, "Oh, Frank de Boer could be one of the best appointments in the Premier League for a long, long time. He only got 5 games."
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Now, it must be said, Regan, I'll go back to you in a minute, Jenna, but it must be said in the first half, it could have been a lot more than the one.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been. I quite like the Dundee goalie. Is it Legstons? I quite like him. I think he's a good goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for Dundee, I think James McPake will be. I'm not going to say worried, but he's not. As much as they've been playing well the last few weeks, they've just been getting by, and I think you'll be disappointed at the way they've kind of folded the last few weeks when they've went to Ibrox and went to Easter Road because they've not really offered too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Jenna, a never disappointing night for Dundee when we look at it, because I mean it wasn't a game which was sparked by an impressive performance by our team. Never disappointing even for James McPeak.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Dundee just came up this season, and a lot of people were hoping that they'd do well. I mean, I know myself, whenever a new team comes up, I like to give them the benefit of the doubt. If they've won the playoffs, they clearly deserve a place up here. But I think Dundee might be kind of be punching above their weight a little bit the past couple of games. They've had a couple of tough games back to back, as you were saying, Rangers, Hibs. So I don't want to judge them too harshly for their current run of form, because that can play into the mentality of players when they go into the pitch, especially with teams like Dundee that do have a smaller budget for players. Not obviously a lower degree of skill, absolutely not. But you could argue that the quality just isn't to the same par. But again, devil's advocate here, they are a Premiership team and they will be expected to pull out good performances against these bigger sides. And the sooner they start doing that, the better for James McPeak as well, because you don't want him to end up in the position where Jack Ross was in all but a week ago.
Absolutely. Right. Is everybody's Facebook not working? Well, you should be in here. You should be in here. No Facebook for us tonight. Not until 7 o'clock at least anyway. So before I get a bit of a laugh in here. And ultimately, it's Christmas. So Regan, when we look at it last night, Danny Mullin had a great chance, but apart from that, very little in front of goal for Dundee last night.
Yeah, I mean, I've been very disappointed in Dundee, to be honest, because I spoke to you about they've got Jason Cummins, Lee Griffiths, so they've got a very good threat, and they're not doing too well at the moment.
I'm going to stick with yourself here. Are you confused, puzzled into why Dundee haven't said anything in relation to Charlie Adam publicly yet?
Yeah, because they need to address the issue. There's probably another few clubs I wish would address issues as well, but they're not doing the same thing here, so I can't argue with Dundee. But they obviously know best, and they feel like they should keep it indoors.
Because they'll keep it indoors. And what I would I'm going to add my penny forth to the situation, as much as obviously there'll be a lot of worry about this at this precise moment in time, but also Charlie Adams been through a lot this last year, but also what's happened cannot be condoned, can it, Jenna?
Definitely not. I mean, my heart goes out to him with the personal struggles he's went through. But as you were saying, that doesn't condone what happened. Luckily, I don't think anyone was hurt from the crash.
No, it was just a tree. Just a tree, really.
Just the trees. That'll be called to my finger now. But no, just kidding on. Like, he is lucky he got not away with it, but in terms of like harming other people, Uzel himself, potentially the car, don't know what state the car's in, and obviously this poor tree that's been ran over. But Dundee seem to be kind of being plagued with players that have fall short behaviour wise out with the club. So I think they will be trying to maybe save face a little by not bringing out a statement. But at the same time, there could be a legal issue. I've seen that a couple of times where a lot of people have called for accountability from people's employers with things kind of similar to this, and they've had to say, look, we can't say anything because of any investigations going on into the matter. So it could be that. But I do think they kind of have to put out something and say, look, we're aware of the situation. We'll try make sure he's okay as a player. And
Dave, to bring some balance to this is Dundee, who forgot that they didn't send a vote 2 years ago.
Well,
so they couldn't even send an email. So.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Back on the park, Jenna, Ryan Sweeney just added to what was a frustrating night for Dundee last night.
Yeah, I mean, some of the efforts I've seen watching back the highlights were really good from both sides. I'm surprised the score didn't go up, even though both sides are obviously in a bit of a rut now. But he did seem to do quite well last night. I was quite impressed.
And Regan, it was a frustrating night in terms of the fact they got sent off for a second booking ball, which means it's only Liam Fontaine that's the recognisable centre-half so far for Saturday when Dundee play Hearts.
Yeah, there's something funny I actually seen about Liam Fontaine. He actually, he plays his own music as well. Is that right, Dave?
Well, I'd love to know what music it is.
I think he plays his own music as well. But no, one thing about Liam Fontaine is he's very reliable because he's been at Edinburgh as well, and he's done well there. And I think Dundee will be relying on him. But yeah, I think it's worrying time for James McPake, because it was only a few weeks ago that he was going to get sacked, and then they were talking about Dundee fans on social media that could maybe get him out, and then he got touted for the job last week at Easter Road, and now he's got some injury concerns. So it just shows you how fickle football can be sometimes, Dave.
Absolutely. Now, apparently, I've got a jumper with somebody's ex-bird's name on it, but that's what it says. I bought it off Amazon, and it says ho ho ho. So Merry Christmas, one and all. And Merry Christmas, one and all. I've just got the Celtic team lines for tonight. Hart and goals: Ralston, Carter Vickers, Starfelt, Scales, McGregor, Beaton, Juranovic, Turnbull, Montgomery, Abada. Regan, what we're thinking for the Celtic team tonight?
For me, Dave, the biggest positive for me is Greg Taylor's not playing, because I'm not a big fan of Greg Taylor, as people will know that listen to my podcast. I'm not a big fan of Greg, and I think that Scales has impressed me. I know he also impressed you, Dave, when he went to Tannadice, because he scored that beauty of a goal. But yeah, I think it's a strong enough team to beat Ross County. No disrespect, Dave, but I did tell you the other week that I've got a bit of a soft spot for Ross County because of the way they're playing. I really like the way Malcolm Mackay's got them playing, and I think he's underrated because they've always seemed to find a way to do it. They've got a good draw against Robbie Nielsen's side early in the season. They drew up at Aberdeen, Dave, is that right? And then
Ross County, yeah, they drew up at Aberdeen, yeah.
They drew up at Aberdeen, and they won against Jack Ross in one of his last two games anyway. So yeah, I think that they're quietly going about their business, and it's not a game that Celtic will be taking lightly, but I think it's a strong enough team that can definitely get the job done.
Absolutely. Right, the Ross County have not released their team line yet, so we'll stick with Celtic for the time being, Jen. And this is an opportunity for Ange Postecoglou to get another 3 big points tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I've got the team sheet here as well, because I was looking at who was on the bench. I'm quite surprised Roderick was dropped. He seemed to be doing quite well the past couple of games. So maybe they're benching him until the cup final, potentially, to kind of give him a rest, since obviously he was doing well in the last European game at the weekend there. But I do find that quite interesting, though. Maybe the style of play is hoping to achieve tonight. I mean, there are still some really good players like McGregor. He's really good. Turnbull, great player, obviously, but that might just be my Clark Amber tinted glasses coming out here.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, the Celtic have been a really strong side this year. I mean, I can remember seeing it a couple of weeks ago. I was kind of worried about their successes at the start of the season, but they've kind of grown into themselves a lot more under Ange Postecoglou. Obviously, it's quite alarming, maybe. You can tell me if it is or not, Regan, about Kyogo getting injured in their last game there. So hopefully he bounces back and he's able to bounce some more goals in, as long as not against Mullen.
Regan, I think there's a really good balance here. I think there's balance of putting some big players on the bench, such as Roderick, but having a strong lineup to try and go and get 3 points tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, you know I would give my last Christmas to Ange Postecoglou as the song is sang, but I was very disappointed that he brought on Kyogo, and I'm going to say a meaningless game against Betis, because there was nothing to be achieved in that. You know, Celtic could have played Mikey Johnson in that striker position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But also, I make the point, and I think it's a sign of mentality right now, Jenna. Celtic are depleted in the attacking areas of the field, but still winning.
Yeah, definitely. It just goes to show you the type of strength they've got as a team and the ability they've got, and players that might have normally been on the bench for games. You're saying about Mikey Johnston as well. He's a player that's been kind of in and out the first team the past couple of seasons, and he's starting to really become more of himself. He's able to get more game time, get more assists and whatnot. And honestly, if they're still able to do that, it just show the ability of Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah, I mean, to counterbalance that, I mean, I listened to Axom on, I think it was yesterday with Amy and Tony, and they spoke about Mikey Johnson. Mikey Johnson's a strange one, because I like Mikey, but he just seems to be the guy that always gets injured, and like, I'm sorry, he's 22 now, and I think there's better wingers out there that are more mature and more less injury prone at the age of 22. This is no disrespect to Mikey, but what does he want to achieve himself? Does he want to achieve to be on the bench and come in when somebody's injured, or does he want to nail down a place? Because I was even thinking about it before, Dave. Maybe going to an Aberdeen or Dundee United would suit him more the same way that Ryan Christie did. And look how Ryan Christie done. He sent Scotland to the European Championships with Steve Clarke, and it was really good in Europe for Celtic. So it can change somebody's career. As much as Celtic fans will say, well, he can bide his time. I mean, another example is Christopher Ayer. He went to down at Rugby Park, and he's now away down for £20 million away to Brentford. So, yeah, I think it's a counterbalance from Celtic, because as much as Ange Postecoglou want to play him, I think he'll be saying, I can get someone in Malaysia who I've actually. Don't ask me why I'm watching the J League, but I started to watch Malaysia for the past couple of games that he was playing in his final few games, because I knew he was going to come to Celtic. But so I think someone like him would maybe be in the team more than a Mikey Johnson, because as much as I see Mikey as an important player to beat Ross County tonight, do I see him as long term for Celtic? No, I don't.
Absolutely. For Ross County, Jenna, we're still waiting for the team, of course, but this is an opportunity to get another big result. Marky Mackay is undefeated in 4 for the Staggies.
Yeah, I mean, Ross County's pulled off some really, really, really surprising results before, I'm pretty sure. Were they not the team that put out Celtic in the League Cup last year?
Yeah, 2-0 at Parkhead, of course.
Which I know you could argue Celtic weren't in the best of form because of what was happening with Neil Lennon at the time, but man of the boys, they still pulled off the massive win. I mean, no disrespect to Ross County, obviously, but a lot of people probably would have just automatically went Celtic won about either 3 or 4-0. And look how they turned it around. Ross County can be a good side, as you were saying. 4 wins in 4. If they're able to even go out and get a draw tonight, they should be giving themselves a pat on the back.
There we go. The Ross County graphic designer is up and running. And we've got the Ross County team for this evening. We've got Maynard Brewer in goals, Vokins, Baldwin, Harry Payton, Spittle, Calgan, Watson, Charles Cook, Clark, Tilson and Humble. The bench for the Stargaze, Randall, Kankoa, Dominic Sanyo, Burrows, Donaldson, White and Laidlaw. What are you thinking, Jenna?
Callaghan is a really good player. I hate to say that because obviously of his original roots last season. But he is a really good young player that's coming up. I can see him doing really well in his career, and I hope that he is able to flourish at Ross County, because that is a player that maybe about 5 years, maybe 3 or 4 years down the line, he could get a really big move to a bigger club. I mean, he is a really good forward, so the more he's able to get more game time and get good results, improve himself against teams like Celtic, Rangers, even teams like Hearts, Aberdeen, Hibs, the better for the young man.
Absolutely. Apologies if I was just looking at the window there. I had a motorbike praying it wasn't Charlie Adam at my door for having a go at him. So, but no, we're all good. We're all good. Regan, that's a very strong Ross County team that this evening.
Yeah, Dave, but one thing I'm surprised about is that Jordan White doesn't start, considering that he was the man that finally put Neil out of his misery with that 25-point gap when he got sacked the next day. Now, because I think as much as Jenna spoke about Callaghan, I think the important thing for Ross County tonight is to get the 2 centre-backs pinned in, and Jordan White's a kind of physical player, as Jenna will know from Motherwell. So I think that could have maybe been a more better option, would you say, Jenna? Because as much as Callaghan is a good option for Ross County, he's not very physical. He's very small, and and I just think up against Starfelt and Vickers, I think Vickers is someone that is very, very strong and a very good player as well. So to me, seeing the team lines, it's made me more confident that the 3 points will be going back to Celtic Park.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, just to clarify, Jenna is a Motherwell fan, not a Celtic fan. I had a fair few questions in the comment section, but with regards to tonight's game, Is mentality the big thing for Celtic tonight, Regan?
Yeah. Dave, first of all, I just want to say that Jen is very she's very neutral anyway, so it doesn't matter what team she supports. But
Well, I try to be.
yeah, I mean, I think mentality is important because as much as I listened to Joe Hart yesterday, and he spoke about they're not looking forward to the cup final on Sunday. They're focusing on Ross County, but they need to focus on this because, like you say, Dave, they don't want to go into a cup final with a bad feeling of dropping points against Ross County, especially when Rangers are at home to St Johnstone tonight, when St Johnstone have been absolutely honking this season. So, so I think it's important that Celtic keep that one and run going because, Dave, I always say to you on here, as much as losing can be habit, so can winning. And Ange Postecoglou seems to be getting that mentality right with the players because someone have been really impressed with David Joe Hart. I just think he brings that calmness to the whole squad. And as much as Callum McGregor might not admit this, I think Joe Hart is the secret of the captain. I think he just brings that aura about him. The players know where he's been. Like even someone like Scales and Montgomery, see for them tonight, Joe Hart will be talking to them through the whole game. And he's someone that they. And something interesting that I listened to yesterday, I think it was one of the reporters said, "What do you enjoy at Celtic?" He said, "I enjoy helping the young players," and that is something that I mean, he's not been told to say that, Dave. So obviously, he does properly enjoy that, and that can only be good for Montgomery and players like that because he's won Premier Leagues and he's represented England about 80 times, and you don't do that if you're a bad player.
Absolutely. Good point coming in here from Fudro. Pardon me. Anyway, Humboldt, Samuel, and Charles Gook are playing for Ross County tonight. 3 players who could trouble any team in the Premiership. But from a Celtic persuasion, hopefully not tonight. But for Ross County, 3 big players who want to have their own stocking things for the Staggies in general.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Ross County has been building quality. It is another team that might often get overlooked as being a small club, small budget, and therefore small standards, but that is just not the case. I think a lot of people like to overlook these teams, as I've said. So if they're able to go out and put up a good form of play, then good for them. The more we teams that do well in this league, I think the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I bought the Times today. I bought the Times just because I was in Morrison's, and the Sun is a typical tabloid, and I couldn't think of any other useful newspapers. Good article in here today. Postecoglou relishes the rough with the smooth, and that's the way I look at it. No Kyogo, no Jota, no Giacomakis, and no Ayete's back. But apart from that, this is about balancing the rough with the smooth tonight. And tonight will be another big game in terms of getting the 3 points and back to Glasgow to prepare for Sunday.
Yeah, because as Tony and Amy said yesterday on the actual bulletin, it's important that as much as the performance is important, the most important thing in football is if you win football. Someone that I absolutely adore watching, and I never understood why Spurs got rid of Jose Mourinho. Right? People say to me, "Oh, it's boring to watch." I couldn't care. This was a guy that won trophies, and he got let go from Spurs with a week to go to the cup final. That still annoys me because like winning mentality is all we need. But I just want to say your point about going to Morrison's. I just want to say that there definitely is other places you can go as well, just in case people from Tesco and Aldi are offended, Dave.
Well, exactly. I thought I'd just get Morrison's in for a good measure. They used to sponsor the Scotland national team, so there we go. That's enough for me. But predictions for tonight. How do we see things going at Ross County? Jenna, we'll start with yourself.
I'm going to say 2-0 to Celtic.
Okay, Regan.
I'm going to I'm going to say 2-1 to Celtic. I do think it'll be tougher than what people say, but like I said, trying to put things in perspective, I do think that not playing Jordan White could really hurt them. But maybe Malcolm Mackay's thinking, I'll bring Jordan on later in the game when Starfelt and Vickers are tired. David Turnbull's tired because he's more of a luxury player, and then we can do our best from there. But yeah, I would go for 2-1 to Celtic.
Ross County on a side, both conceding and scoring the guaranteed goals. 3-1 Celtic. And just to round things off, we've still got 15 minutes to go. What a show we've had so far. Rangers v St Johnstone. How do you see this one going? We'll get the team lines for you in a minute, but Rangers v St Johnstone, a big game for both sides this in certain situations, Jenna.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is on a really good run of form there. I'm pretty sure he's at, 4 or 5 unbeaten games so far?
Yeah.
5, yeah. So obviously we're looking to make that 6 as well. I mean, Rangers are a really good side. They're in the Europa League still, potentially facing Botswana Drummond, one of the biggest teams in the world. He has got the ability to take them very far. And if he can get the boys rallied up, ready for this game tonight, because I think that future game will be kind of playing in the back of their heads going, oh my God, like we're playing this big, massive team. Like, can we do it? Obviously, probably won't be able to get the win, but they need to tackle this game first, and I think they will probably beat St Johnstone. St Johnstone are without a win, and I think it's their last 6 or 7 games, if not more. So, I mean, I was speaking to a couple of St Johnstone fans because I was doing a match preview for the game this weekend, and I was saying to them, so who's the biggest player been this season? Is it still Xander Clarkson's? Obviously, can it really be a goalkeeper if they're continuously losing games? And he said, despite that, Xander Clark is still one of their main forces. So he'll be probably the biggest challenge still, which I think says a lot for the way St Johnstone is playing now as well.
Absolutely. I'm going to stick with yourself here. We'll get the team lines for you all. But the St Johnstone team for tonight is... Oh, it's not out yet. We'll get the Rangers team first and foremost. But so we'll come back to yourself in a minute, Jenna. But on from a Rangers perspective here, Regan, it's probably a bit being professional tonight.
Yeah, Dave, I just want to ask you, who's going to be the referee at Ibrox tonight, do we know?
I'll check in a minute, but I'll give you the team and then we can go and have a look. It's McGregor, Tavernier, Goldson, Bassey, Barisic, Kamara, Arfield, Aribo, Hadji, Kent, and Morelos. The benches: McLaughlin, Simpson, Patterson, Lundstrom, Bakuna, Wright, and Fashion Jr. What we thinking, Regan?
Dave, I'm going to go on my weekly rant. I really don't know why Patterson doesn't get a game for Rangers, and I think on January the 1st, he should be backing on that door. He should be. If he's got any ambition, he'll leave Rangers. You know, he's not going to sniff. Like, you need to. I know people will come back to me in the comments and say, well, Tavernier's the captain. I don't care if Tavernier's a captain. I don't think he's a captain. He never come out in the cup final and said, this is a problem. He shucked away from it. He Conor Goldson come out and said that, we've lost hunger. Well, we've still not helped the captain, so we've not helped him since. So I think it's going to be an interesting game. But like I said, I'm just sick of these referees at the moment because they seem to be deciding too many games, and I just hope that tonight we don't see ourselves in the same situation. If it's a decent game, I'll probably say Rangers will win that game pretty comfortably.
You and Anderson.
Dave, I think he's on par with John Beaton, but yeah, I mean, I just don't understand. I don't understand why these referees are not getting marked on what they're doing. I seen last night it was Gavin Duncan. This was the same guy, Gavin Duncan, that was absolutely was terrible at Tannadice on Saturday for Livingston against Dundee United. I don't understand what's happening. Why are we still letting these guys referee the game when they're so bad week to week? Now, this is coming not from any agenda against referees. I'm just saying the standard of refereeing is absolutely awful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I can't wait till tomorrow night's show when we'll call it the Ewan Anderson Show. Anyway.
Yeah, Dave. I mean, some of these referees, I think they like to think that they're the star of the show when it's supposed to be the players, because I'm just absolutely sick of it. I really don't get it. I mean, we've seen Crawford Allen come out last week out from his bed. We've not seen him from the past 2 years, and we'll not see him again for another 2 years. But it's just these inconsistencies. Why is Crawford Allen coming out saying, "Oh, the Kyogo goal was offside"? Well, I'm sorry, but I didn't see him not any other game when we see any big decisions. I didn't see him at Ibrox when David Bates David Bates was wrongly. I didn't see him at the Callum Butcher tackle, and I've not seen him any other time this season. So, and I'm going to ask you a question. What do you think is the answer? Because do you really still trust these guys to referee VR? Because
I was waiting for my next question here, right? I'll give you something that Tam Courts told me a couple of weeks ago in the press conference. He didn't tell us publicly in terms of on camera, but he told us off camera, right? When Celtic played Dundee United at Celtic Park back in September, there was a penalty incident for Dundee United which got turned down. Kevin Clancy was the referee in that afternoon in question. Now, Clancy didn't apologise to Tam Courts after that game. But when Dundee United played Ross County a fortnight later, Clancy went and spoke to Tam Courts after the game and go, "Tam, I got it horribly wrong here. See, for any referee who gets it horribly wrong or admits they get it wrong, it gets my respect 100 every day of the week." And that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be.
I know, Dave, but like what I'm trying to say is that Celtic and Rangers are going for a £40 million title. I mean, could you imagine if that game was 0-0 during the Celtic Dundee United game when Callum Butcher and say VR wasn't there and it got a yellow, that red card could have been so decisive to this league title. We need to get the thing spot on, because I'm starting to get real annoyed by it, and there seems to be no real leader from the SFA, because one of the things that we need to start addressing as a nation is saying, do we really want these guys to be in the talking points every single game? No, we don't. No fan wants to be going home going, "Oh well, we should have got a more penalty tonight," but that's just the way it goes. But no, it's not the way it goes, because it's happening every single game.
Can I make the point here? I think VAR is going to expose our referees, right?
Yeah, it's going to expose them even more, because see that. I mean, I was watching a game where Spurs and the Harry Kane goal was onside, but they started drawing all these lines and all that sort of stuff. So can you imagine they started drawing these lines for the Kyogo goal last week? It would just look my can of worms. VR wouldn't help the game. I'm going to say that already. It wouldn't help the game. All it would do is stop the stupid yellow cards that should be red. That's all it's going to stop. It's not going to stop clear obvious goals, because if you look at it, the weekend, Man City and Liverpool and Chelsea all got penalties, right? No, I'm not saying that they're all not penalties, but what I'm saying is I can't remember the guy from BT. Is it Peter Walton? He basically said that the referees have been briefed that they can only overturn the decision if it's clear and obvious. So see if they've even awarded it for a tackle that is a possible touch, they can. That doesn't matter. It needs to be clear and obvious. So even if the decision looks wrong to them, if it's not a clear and obvious error, then that's different.
Absolutely. No goodwill for referees from our Regan Stevenson this year, that's for sure. Back on to St Johnstone and Jenna, we'll leave you with this one. St Johnstone team for this evening is as follows: Xander Clark in goals, number 1. Liam Gordon, number 6. Brown, Devine, Crawford, Rooney, McCart, Craig, Butterfield, O'Halloran, Vertonen. Bench being Parish, the Docker, Booth, Bryson, Solomon, Otterbohr, May and Muller. First and foremost, a first start for Jacob Butterfield tonight, Jenna.
Yeah, fair play. I haven't seen much of St Johnstone this season, so I haven't been able to see how much he's progressed. I'll put that one out there now.
He just signed on Monday. He just signed on Monday.
Well, that'll be how then. But yeah, I mean, that's brilliant. It must show how much faith that Callum Davison has in this new player. I haven't heard much of him. I won't lie. I'm happy to put that one out there. So
Yeah.
please, everyone, throw out any information they can at me, either comments or whatever. But yeah, I mean, if this is a player that Callum Davison's immediately said, you know what, first team, right off for your first game, get us a good result, then it just shows the ability this player must have and the diversity he'll be able to bring to this St Johnstone side.
I just want to talk about Jacob Butterfield. I've watched him in the English Championship. He played for, I think it was the Huddersfield team under David Wagner and Simon Grayson. He's more like a centre midfielder, but I think he's a decent signing for St Johnstone. But what I would say to him is it's a bit of a step down from Championship, so maybe he's declined. The only thing I could maybe throw into the bargain is that Davidson, I know, has got a lot of contacts from being down at Millwall and Stoke. Maybe he spoke to the guy down in England and said, "Look, I'm looking for options." Because one thing I want to throw at you, Dave, I've been really disappointed with Crawford for St Johnstone. Because I remember when he was scoring goals for Hamilton and he was keeping them in the league, basically. So I'm really disappointed by him, and I'm really disappointed by St Johnstone. But from a personal point of view, it would be great to see Xander Clark put one in the net again tonight.
Exactly. First and foremost, Chris Kane isn't in the squad tonight. There's been a comment in the comment section about Chris Kane playing tonight or in the squad. Did I mention him? No, I didn't mention him for the precise reason that he's not in the squad tonight. So no Chris Kane for St Johnstone. But we'll get to Chris Kane in a minute. But on to Crawford, I do agree with you, Regan, to an extent where he's probably turned up in the City Discovery and nowhere else. I've watched him at Dens and Tardis, and he was brilliant for St Johnstone on both those occasions. But then I watched the same guy a fortnight ago tonight at Dens Park, and I didn't think much about him. So there's no consistency with Ali Crawford, no.
Yeah, I mean, the only game that I watched him in was the Betfred quarter-final when St Johnstone beat Dundee. And he scored that goal. But apart from that, he's not really offered much. And I think it's a real downgrade. It's a real downgrade from McCann that was there last year. I think from Callum Davidson, I'm starting to wonder if maybe he's, I don't know. I'm not going to say fed up, but I'm saying maybe he's thinking, well, I've done all I can here, because he's got them to 2 trophies. He's losing his best players, and now I think they can be in for a real bottom of the table battle. I don't know what you think, Jenna.
I think it just goes to show how tight this season has been in the lower sides of the table, that just 3 losses in a row has put St Johnstone from about 6th or 7th straight down to 12th. I think a lot has to change. Hopefully this new player they've brought in is able to do it. And if Callum Davison is able to go from a cup double to a relegation fight, it may make people question his actual ability as a manager. That's no disrespect to Callum. I hold him in quite a high regard for his achievements last season. But it does make you wonder, how can it go so wrong in a manner of games as it appears to be?
Well, would say on that, Jenna, is probably all the emotion from last season and maybe losing all the players as well, because as much as people will say, oh, it's a new season, is it? Like, when you think of it, I think they've really had a bad run, because they've seemed to go into Europe as well, because remember they went to Turkey, Dave, as well. They done well in Turkey. It's very topical for Christmas, but yeah, I think they done well in Turkey, and I think that maybe took the toll out of them as well, because obviously they've got some decent players, but I don't think they've got the attacking threat to really trouble the top end in the Premiership.
Well, yeah, great point. Jenna, no Chris Kane tonight, a massive miss for St Johnstone.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really curious as to why he's been left at the selection, since I was having a nosy at the St Johnstone feed to see if maybe they'd said why he was left out, and he was the one that did the pre-match interview with St Johnstone.
Okay.
So, like, you guys can see it here. So he was the last person to kind of make the formal things other than the manager ahead of this game. So something must have either happened. Maybe he's off sick, maybe surprise injury. It's just kind of happened last minute. Or maybe falling out with manager. It's kind of hard to tell, but I'm really curious to see why he's been completely left out.
Jenna's just threw a spanner in the works just before we leave, Dave. She's threw it out that it might fall out for Callum Davidson.
It's a state of Scottish football. It's a state of Scottish football. It's a state of Scottish football. Right, Jenna, Ibrox, Rangers St Johnstone, what we thinking?
I'm going to say 3-1 to Rangers.
Okay, Regan?
4-0 Rangers and St Johnstone down to 10 men the first half an hour.
Well played. 1-0 Rangers. I predicted to be a tight one tonight then. That's all we've got time for. What a show. What a lineup. And it's 10 days till Christmas. So thank you very much. Back tomorrow night. I don't know who's on yet tomorrow night because, well, I'm off to see Spider-Man. Can't wait. Regan is off
Do
to
not
open
spoil
goal.
it on the show.
Correct. Well, I don't think I'll be on Friday either. So there we go. I will not spoil it for the viewers. But looking forward to the show in 24 hours' time. Regan's at open goal. Jenna, what we do tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night, I am doing more coursework and then preparing to see Spider-Man on Friday. So you can spoil it after Friday. It's okay.
There you go.
Okay, no problem at all. Right, thank you very much.